Hi, I'm Lindsay Strand. Maybe some of you are having trouble saying those 3 magic words for Valentine's Day. If that's the case, I think these really adorable heart-shaped cookies will be the perfect way to get your message across. First, we're going to start with the dry ingredients. Here I've got 2 cups of flour, and to that I'm going to add a ½ teaspoon of baking powder and a ½ teaspoon of salt. We're going to give that a good whisk. Make sure everything's nice and combined. We're going to aerate the flour a little bit. Make sure that there's no pockets of leavener in our dough. Next, we're going to start creaming the butter and sugar. So here I've got 1 stick of room temp unsalted butter. Next, we'll add 1 cup of sugar. We're going to get this going on medium-high for 2 to 3 minutes to get the butter and sugar nice and combined. It's going to get really fluffy and make a really tender texture for our cookies. That looks pretty good. Next, we're going to add 1 egg and 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. We're going to mix this over medium just until the 2 are emulsified. All right, so this is looking good. The mixture is nice and smooth. It's not broken. Now we can add our dry ingredients. Get this started on low so that the flour doesn't explode everywhere. We're going to mix this just until the dough comes together and starts to clump. If you overmix it, it's going to be really tough. All right, so this is looking nice and combined. We're going to divide it in half and then wrap this into plastic wrap so that it can freeze for about 20 minutes. There we go. So I'm going to take this dough and put it in the freezer for about 20 minutes until it's firm. So our dough is chilled. I have the oven preheated to 325, and I've let the dough sit out of the freezer for about 5 or 10 minutes just to soften up enough to make it easier for me to roll out. So I'm going to get started with this first disc. We're going to roll these between 2 sheets of parchment. Put a little flour down. This makes it really easy to roll out so that they don't stick. Sometimes I like to just press on the dough to get it started. It's a good thing I've been going to the gym, you know? Roll this about 1/8 of an inch thick. And I like to give it a little bit of a spin every few rolls so that you know that you're rolling it out evenly. 1 last roll to make it even. That looks pretty good. So now we're going to take our heart-shaped cookie cutter. This one's about 2½ inches. Dip it in some flour so it doesn't stick. Start punching out our hearts. You want to try to fit as many as you can into the dough because we don't like to waste. This might just only get 1 more in here. So since they're sticking a little bit, I'm going to use an offset spatula. This is a really handy tool to make sure that your cookies stay nice and neat. And my dough's still pretty cool and firm, so it's not too difficult to work with. If it takes you a while to roll out and it's getting too soft, you can always just pop it back into the fridge for a few minutes. All right, so I'm going to re-roll these scraps 1 time. All right, so these are ready to go into the oven. I'm going to put them in the oven for about 12 to 16 minutes, rotating halfway through. So I've pulled these out of the oven and moved them onto a wire rack. They baked for about 16 minutes, and now I'm going to let them cool completely before we start icing them. So we can move on to making our royal icing. We're going to start with 2 cups of confectioner sugar. To that we're going to add 1 egg white. And we're just going to get this moistened. And add 1/4 cup of water. Now we're going to crank up the speed on this and let it go on high for about 10 minutes until it leaves a nice ribbon. This is looking perfect. So now I'm just going to transfer my icing into a bowl. It's a little bit easier to do this in a smaller bowl so that you can really see what you're doing with the cookies. So I'm going to put a little parchment under my wire rack so that when I'm dipping, it won't catch any drips. So you're just going to take your cookie and you dip it about halfway in. If you need to, you can kind of tilt the bowl to cover the cookie halfway up. Let it drip off, and then you scrape along to get the bottom of the cookie dry, just like that. Another thing you can do is take a rubber spatula and use this to kind of guide it onto the cookie and let it drip over. Last cookie. Now I'm going to let these dry completely. With royal icing, that takes a while, so you want to give it at least a couple of hours and up to overnight if you have the time. Once these are completely dry, we'll add a little sparkle. These are looking nice and dry. You can kind of tap on them, nothing's gonna happen. So now we get to do the fun part, which is the luster. So this is some gold luster dust. You can get this at, cake decorating stores, sometimes craft supply stores. And to that, we're just gonna add a couple drops of lemon extract. Give that a good stir. Makes this really pretty metallic liquid. Now we just get to splatter. Take it with one hand and you kind of give it a little flick. Like a lot of sparkle. This part's really fun. All right, these look good. So that's super cute. I'm not sure who you're planning on giving these to. I know I'm gonna give them to my 2 roommates, but whoever your special Valentine is, I hope they really love them. Yum.